I bought a brand new bike, a 2016 Cannondale CAAD12 with these things. I think they're called rim brakes. And get this, it cost me £400, which I think is a bit of a bargain. So in this video, I explain why I bought a second-hand wreck, get it inspected by a pro bike mechanic, and hopefully go for a ride as well. So why exactly have I bought a knackered old second-hand bike? Well, because new bikes are really expensive these days, and I want to see what you can get in the second-hand market. And after 2 months of searching on eBay and Facebook Marketplace, which is an experience, it has to be said, I finally found this gem. And I've always wanted a CAAD bike as well. The CAAD series from Cannondale, launched back in the 80s and 90s, is an iconic bike, a cult bike, the best of the best when it comes to aluminium. I do think that the CAAD or any other aluminium frame is a really good punt for a second-hand bike. And I think if you're new to cycling or getting into cycling, then buying a second-hand bike could be a really good way to save a lot of money and get a bike that hopefully hasn't had a lot of use, too much wear and tear, and can give you plenty of opportunity to upgrade the bike and personalize it and be a good entry into the world of cycling without the big costs associated with many new bikes. There's a reason the bike was so cheap. I mean, look at the state of it. The mess starts with a chain, which is super rusty. That hasn't seen oil in a long time. The cassette is also rusty as well, and that is a really bad state of affairs. We also have a spoke protector or a dork disc on here, which normally you remove when you buy the bike. The same with the reflector on the wheel and the one on the seat post. The handlebar tape is absolutely shagged as well. That is coming off my hands. I don't really want to touch that too much more because I don't know how much sweat or snot has been, oh, that's horrible. So that needs replacing. Something I've never seen on a bike before are how all the logos and the black parts of the decals on the frame have all cracked. So I'm not sure if I can replace these logos or whether it needs a respray in the future. That's a real shame, because otherwise I do like the colour. I think it's a good looking bike. So now you know why I bought a knackered old second-hand bike. Now time to hand it over to my pro bike mechanic to get a full inspection of what it will cost to get it roadworthy. So let's hit the road.
Right, Jim, what do you think of my brand new bike that I picked up yesterday?
I think it's an interesting decision, David.
Interesting is the word.
Yeah. I love a Cannondale actually, and these are proper racy. It's basically like a metal version of a Super 6 Evo, really, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
Proper crit weapon. They're not without their problems, but they are fast.
I'm hoping this one needs a bit of a service. I'm hoping you can get it roadworthy, and hopefully the bill for getting it up and running won't be too bad. So are you okay to give it a run over, give me a full lowdown on it?
Show me the money.
Not too much, hopefully.
First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at this front wheel. And the first basic check is the quick release done up tight, and is the wheel actually even in its dropouts? But this one seems okay. The quick release is working all right. While we're playing around with that front hub, I'm going to see if there's any play in it. If we give it a quick spin, I mean, it sounds nice and quiet. And while I'm doing that, I can see if it's true using the brake pads as a reference. So we're looking just there, look, that gap's staying constant. So that tells me the wheel is true. If it sounded rumbly or rough, that would tell me the wheels are on their, the bearings rather, are on their way out. But you know what? Seems all right. So the other thing I'm going to do, working from the middle outwards, is I'm going to see about the tensions and condition of the spoke. What I do tend to do is I pinch them in pairs. Do they all feel kind of okay? Which they do. One thing I'm noticing, which is an overall thing with this bike, but certainly you can see it here, is we've got some water damage. So these spokes are a little bit corroded. You can see the same on the aluminium braking surface just here, look. We've definitely got a little bit of oxidization there where the aluminium's got damp. And I would also say that the spoke nipples themselves here are looking a little bit corroded. So while that's not an issue at the minute, it might be if we ever had to get a spoke replacement done on this wheel. So a couple of other things with this tyre. I'm going to get straight to the point. It's knackered, it's had it, it's separating quite clearly. So this tyre is a write-off and is not safe for the road.
Straight in the bin.
Straight in the bin, in fact, yeah. Next thing I'm going to look at is this rather beautiful Ultegra rim brake that we've got here. Now the first thing to note is it's filthy. I'd take it off, disconnect the cable. I'd probably put it through a parts washer because you can see it's got all kinds of gunge down in the pivots. So while effectively, you know, seems to be doing its job, definitely wants a bit of a wash because you've got all kinds of plastic bushes in the back of here, which if they're left contaminated with this gunge, eventually it's going to affect the operation of the caliper. Do the headset bearings feel okay? Knock it off center. Does it return? Yep. And you know if it feels a bit like a cheese grater, or you can definitely hear roughness, or you can feel it through your fingers, then you know what? Probably the top bearing's gone. Bearings are probably pretty good.
Oh,
Happy days. David in his head now is thinking, excellent, that's 30 quid I just saved. So that's pretty good. So far, so good. I can see the panic receding from David's eyes, but we are not out of the woods yet.
You haven't seen the bar tape yet.
Yeah, I was going to say. We know the bar tape's had it. That's a no-brainer. That's going straight on the list. The next thing I'm going to look at is, was this a turbo bike? So I'm going to peel these hoods back, and I'm going to have a good look underneath here. And I'm specifically looking for sweat, crusty salt, horrible stuff dotted around here. You would be surprised how much damage gets done by sweat to aluminium bars, aluminium bolts, securing bolts for shifters, things like that, to the point where sometimes you peel the bar tape back and there's actually holes in the aluminium because it's eaten its way through over a period of years. These shifters are in good order. I've not really got any major concerns about them. The hood rubbers feel a little bit hard, which would be in line with the amount of kind of perishment we've seen, if you like, if that's even a word. Perishment? Is that even a word?
I'll have to check. I'll flash on screen if it isn't.
Yeah, okay. I just made that word up. Perishment. What I'm also going to look at, though, is I'm going to have a quick look inside the guts of the shifter there. And we can see they've gone a bit furry, okay, and a bit hard.
Furry?
Well, yeah, there's some kind of like dust. You see it?
They're growing in there.
Yeah, we've definitely got some kind of crazy stuff going on in there. I think that's a combination of cobwebs and the original grease that Shimano applied to the internals of the shifter. And I think that this has probably been sat in a hot conservatory during the summer, which is full of spiders, and all that grease has made its way down and got combined. And there's a bit of evidence of wall rub there. Most people, when they lean their bike up against the wall, they lean it on this shifter, so you can see a little bit of roughness there. It's never been crashed, I don't think, but that looks to me like every time the bike's come back from a ride, it just gets lent against the garage wall. We can pop this end up as well if we like. Yeah, that's as clean as a whistle under there. No one's ever lifted these hoods before. They've never been up. So again, the detective in me is thinking right now, this bike has probably still got its original cables. So what I'm going to move on to is this area here, and it's a Cannondale, so it's got a BB30.
Oh no.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Who knows what comes next? It's simultaneously one of the best bottom bracket standards of the last few years, but also potentially the worst. So let's see what
They never
we
get wrong, do they?
What, BB30? It's completely
You never seen that.
As a system, it's faultless. I mean, what could go wrong? And I'm just going to sort of have a bit of a feel. I'm actually going to turn it with my finger like this, because what I don't want to do is hold the pedal, because the pedal might have a rough bearing in it, okay? And that might make me think, yeah, the bottom bracket's had it. So I'm actually just going to do it like this for now, and just see if any kind of grumbly noises come back at me. I mean, it seems all right so far, okay? The other thing I'm going to check for, as I did with the fork, is I'm going to check for play. So what I'm going to do for that is I'm going to get hold of the left and the right crank arm, and I'm just going to wrench it. Can you see what I'm doing? I'm basically being a bit rough with it, because what I'm trying to pick up on is that crankset waggling around inside that frame at all? If it is, and there is a very tiny, tiny, tiny bit of play in there.
Oh no.
Little bit. Can you hear that? It's the tiniest amount, but it might be there. So if it is, it could be one of two things. The bearings don't feel rough on rotation, okay, you've just seen me pedal the bike with my fingers, and actually it's spinning quite nicely. And I could take the chain off as well, which I'm probably going to get to in a minute actually, because I suspect this chain might be going in the bin. More on that later. If there's play in it, it's purely because there's not enough preload. And actually, if you head round the other side of the bike for me, David, the preload, generally speaking, is provided by this. So just there, look, 30mm wave washers actually. And they just put enough compression through the system. So I'd be making a note on my sheet right now, and I'd probably be inclined, for the 10-15 minutes it's going to take me, I'd probably be inclined to pop this whole crankset out, clean the wave washers up, and then just put it back up to manufacturer's torque and just check that it's right. And the other benefit for me doing that would be, while the crankset's out, I can actually get hold of the bearings themselves and I can turn them and then I can get the report straight from the horse's mouth, if that makes sense, rather than relying on the crankset to tell me. Let's have a look at the front derailleur next. So I'm going to feel the action of it through the shifter as well and see if it does its job. Let's see how it goes, shall we? So for this I need to be pedalling. Yeah. It moves, that's the first thing. And it trims back down again, so let's do it again. So it feels awful through the lever. That's the first thing I'm going to say, which tells me that probably the shifter guts have gone sticky or the cable's gone sticky inside the frame. But when I apply the trim, it trims, and when I apply the shift, it shifts. So there's not much wrong with the derailleur itself. It just feels very, very, very unhealthy at the lever.
Now it gets juicy.
Yeah, well...
Have you seen that chain?
It is proper crusty, isn't it?
I haven't seen one like that in a long time.
However, I can tell you if it's okay. Let me get my gadget. So this is a chain wear checker. So we're going to drop it in there like that. We're going to check it's engaged. Ready? Moment of truth. Let's pull that trigger. So, yeah. So I'm telling you straight away, you've got what I just predicted. You got about 30-40% wear on it, maybe a tiny bit more. So your chain's all right. Just need to clean.
Okay.
So that's 40 quid.
So that's quite a good way to check if you are buying a second-hand bike, to have
Yeah.
one of those devices.
Yeah. Take one with you.
Yeah.
Chain wear is quite a good indicator around some of the other things that I'm talking about as well. Hopefully, I mean, in reality, a lot of the learning points in this video, you could take them all with you. You could take the video and go and do this. Yeah. You could really kick the tyres, you know what I mean, metaphorically speaking. But yeah, that would be a good thing. You're right. Take that with you. Take a chain checker, because it's a good indicator. That and the chain ring wear as well, you know, is a good indicator of kind of where you're at. It's not worn out. It's just very caked up in, as we saw with the inside of the shifters. What it's actually got on it is old chain lube that's gone hard and then gone soft in this sunlight that I think this bike's been subjected to. So that's my feeling. The next thing I'm really going to start looking at is the rear derailleur. Okay, now I can do a lot of different things here. There's a lot going on with the rear derailleur. Have these jockey wheels got sharp Ninja Star type teeth on them? And are the wheels actually turning all right? Yeah, they're all right. There's not too much play in them. But again, there's nothing really wrong with the top jockey wheel. That's the guide pulley, for those of you out there who are into correct terminology. And actually, it needs to not have much play in it, because if you've got a guide pulley that's got a ton of play in it, you're going to find your gear shifting is really vague. It's got a bit of play in it, but that's factory level. I expect to see that, to be honest with you. With older derailleurs, with a lot of use, you tend to get quite a lot of waggle or play, if you like, in that there. So this is the main pivot where it fixes into the hanger, because that's a real game changer, because it's not usually a service item. Handily, there's zero play in that. So actually, when I do this, that derailleur is pretty damn good. It's marks to the outside of the actual mech itself.
Yeah, I noticed it's
yeah, there's a little bit.
It's not crash damage.
But it's not crash damage. Yeah, exactly that. If this was really... So you tend to see a scrape mark there, one there like that, and this knuckle here has got a good old scrape as well. If I see that, I'm thinking, yeah, bent derailleur hanger every day of the week. That's got to be a thing. But as it is, looking at it, I'm going to say it's probably straight. Feels pretty good. What I don't particularly like and this is where you need to have a good word with yourself.
Oh yeah.
Oh, come on. Come on.
It's there for a reason though, isn't it?
Yeah,
But
what, aero or something?
Aero, yeah.
It's got to go. Don't get drawn into thinking, I'll just cut it off with a set of pliers or scissors.
I've never done that.
Take the cassette off to get that off. Otherwise, you're going to look a bit of a fool when you lurch into your local bike shop with half of a spoke protector still attached to the bike, and then they have to go, why didn't you just get us to do it in the first place? We are going to check the condition of the cassette. So an educated bit of guesswork right now would be, if this is okay, and this has been okay, and that crankset was okay, I'm going to tell you that this cassette is probably going to be okay as well. Doesn't look worn out to me. These are nice and round, these profiles between the teeth. But the other thing that you can feel, it does take a bit of a practice hand, is if you've got a worn cassette, you'll tend to find these teeth here have a little barbed hook on them. And what that is where the chain has slowly but surely got bits of metal, filed it away and left a little deposit on the head of one of the teeth. And you can feel it, because you'll feel it with the tip of your nail. You'll literally do that and there'll be a little hooked section. So yeah, so I don't think this cassette's worn at all. So we are currently in 11th and we're going to check the downshifting. So we've got no shift. Let's do that again. So no shift whatsoever. We can see that the derailleur is moving, okay? But we can also see that I'm not getting anything. Oh, you see that, David?
It's a bit shy, that's all.
You just tried it, didn't it? Yeah, just wait to show its head. So it could be a sticky cable, but my feeling actually is it just isn't set up. Should we see if we can do a quick fix? Let's just bang a bit of cable tension into it, shall we? Oh, hello. Right, let's try that again. So, that lovely Ultegra, just so good. So we just got all 11 gears. Okay, I'm going to go really fast now. You ready?
That's amazing. After maybe 5+ years of not being used,
Yeah.
it still works.
Not much wrong with it.
Bit rusty, but
Yeah.
it works. Okay, Jim, you've had an inspection of my new bike. So bear in mind this cost me £400, which I think is a bargain.
Yeah.
Hopefully it won't cost too much to get up and running.
No?
But what will it cost me? What's a minimal sort of outlay to get this roadworthy?
Okay, all right. So absolutely, I would not be doing my job if I let you go out on those tyres.
Yes.
That's your minimum cost. So
Okay,
assuming that you've got a set sat in your shed or garage or whatever, that's the minimum you could do, because we know that the brakes and the gears work and that there's nothing desperately mechanically, it's not going to kill you as long as you put a set of tyres on it. So that's your kind of basics, isn't it?
Okay, that's not too bad
I
then.
mean,
A set of
400
tyres.
quid plus a set of tyres,
Yeah.
you bought
Happy
yourself a
with
lot of bike.
Yeah.
But that would be your bare minimum.
Okay.
Tyres and probably half an hour of my time, something like that, just to make it right and work with its existing components.
Yeah.
So that's your kind of baseline, all right?
Nice.
In terms of the maximum, the other end of the scale, what I would do if it was me is I would have all of the Gucci mechanical bits off of it. So I'd be taking your brake calipers off, and I'd be taking your derailleurs off, and your chain and your cassette, both derailleurs. I'd have that crankset out, I'd take the pedals out of it, and I'd clean them all
Okay.
properly.
Okay.
So
So strip the frame down basically, all the
Yeah.
mechanical parts, and then what, soak them in degreaser?
yeah,
get rid
so
of that dirt
some
and
people kind of risk getting overly aggressive with this, and I think you've got to be careful of this. So there's talk about, you know, using heavy parts washers and things like that. The reality is it's not very sympathetic, especially if you use the wrong chemicals.
Okay.
So just be aware. But to me, a lot of your sort of jewellery on this bike is your Ultegra stuff.
Yep.
It's all in really good condition,
That's nice to know.
but it's furred up, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's got that kind of cobwebs and
Yes.
stuff inside it, and we need to get those out just so that it all starts doing its job a bit
Okay.
better. So yeah, to me, I'd be factoring that in. There's no sense in getting rid of what is effectively a new cassette that
Absolutely.
just happens to be wearing some
Yeah.
watermarks. So that's kind of where we're at. Now, cosmetically, we know that the frame is pretty, but also has got some kind of...
Yeah, it's got a weird finish on there.
it's got like a patina to it, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I don't think there's much you can do about that.
Yeah. I don't mind that too much, to be honest.
No.
I don't mind that. It's the way it is. It
So-
could be resprayed in the future, perhaps.
It could be. A quick win with this would be Get yourself some spray alcohol
Okay.
and some microfiber rags. Spend some time cleaning that frame as much as you can, and then buy yourself a decent quality finishing product.
Okay.
So there are bike frame polishes that you can get.
That's a good idea.
Just apply some of it and keep buffing it. And actually, my feeling is you'd probably find that where you've got that crazing effect, that polish would probably actually close up those gaps anyway and make it look nicer.
Yeah.
But I think, cautiously, that you've bought yourself a decent bike.
I've not bought a dud.
No.
Amazing.
I think it's all right.
I'm really pleased with that.
Yeah, and I'm sort of looking forward to potentially seeing you out. In fact, we should go for a bit of a ride together. The sun's coming out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Nice little project for summer.
Yeah, I think so. I don't think it's a desperately bad bike at all, and I think you've done quite nicely for yourself. So yeah.
Well, I've got some work to do. So yeah, thanks for giving it a once over.
That's no problem.
Now, hopefully you enjoyed this video, and let me know what you do to the bike. I'm thinking some carbon wheels and some other upgrades for a future video. So leave a comment down below. Let me know what I should do to the bike going forward. I've got loads more planned for it. But thanks for your time, Jim.
Yeah, cheers. No worries at all.
See you again next time. Thanks for watching.
Thanks a lot. Bye.